Lashana Tova. I'm so overjoyed to see your beautiful faces once again. It's been a couple years, for 3 years. Wow. Well, you know that again, I'm going to tell you when you exit, please turn right on 12 Mile. Please shut off your cell phones. Get a second, take your cell phone out, shut it off. And let's welcome Elaine Fieldman. Come on up, Elaine.
Well, now you know my name. Oh, yeah, good idea. Well, I'm here to ask for, and hopefully you will consider, giving some money to your temple. And if you are a guest, to hopefully consider joining our wonderful temple, or at least donating to our temple, our community, and our home. I think it will make you happy. And I just want to say, I really thought long and hard about what to say. And I received my reading I'm giving today from Michelle, and I had already kind of written out what I was going to say, and it was very lawyer-like, because I'm a lawyer. These are the reasons you should give, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at the reading, I said, no, it needs to be more heartfelt. So I'm just going to give you a little background, and maybe we can connect a little, and then you'll walk away at the end and say, good idea. So, a little background. When I was 7, I knew I was an atheist, but I loved my grandfather. He was just plain lovable. And of course, he came from Russia, Poland, Lithuania, wherever, and he and my grandmother were more or less Orthodox. We lived 2 blocks away, and every Friday we would go there for Shabbat with our dog, Cindy Lou. A new Orthodox shul opened kind of in between our 2 houses, and he joined, he and my grandmother. My parents didn't belong anywhere. They really didn't practice Judaism, but it was very clear to me that we were Jewish. I think they thought Frank Sinatra was Jewish because he was their God. Anyhow, because my grandfather joined the shul, I wanted to go to Sunday school, and so I did. I knew it didn't make sense, but it connected me to my grandfather. I did like carrying around the little Israel flag with the apple, and I loved the Purim parties, and I even got the lead in the Purim play. I tried to be Orthodox for about a year, or kind of Orthodox. I took off from school every holiday that they said you had to take off from school. I required my mother to clean out the cabinets for Passover, etc. After that year, I came to the same conclusion. It didn't make sense to me. At 14, I graduated, and the shul didn't have any further classes. Many of my friends went to a conservative shul, and I went there for a year and was basically confirmed. But that's a different story, and if you want to know what, you can ask me. During that year, the students were required to attend Saturday services. I went to virtually every service, sat through the whole service. My classmates did not, but they said they did. I was bored to tears. I really, really liked the rabbi's class that we went to on Monday nights. He was a wonderful teacher. He was very interesting. But at the end of confirmation year, I was back to my 7-year-old self. Fast forward to 1995, I joined here. And it was basically the first Rosh Hashanah service I had been to since I was maybe 16, Rabbi Wine's service. I love the service. The readings resonated with me. The talk was interesting and meaningful. And I sat through the service reflecting on the year rather than not knowing what was going on. And I thought about the coming year. The temple and all that go with it have become very important to me. And I'm sure each of you who are members and who come here have the same kind of feelings. And those that are new members be interested in knowing why, what you're getting out of the temple. I just got back last night from a trip to Milan. While there, I had breakfast with a corporate executive very high up in his company. His son was recently bar mitzvahed late because of COVID. We talked about our movement. He had never heard of it, and he lives in New York, which kind of surprised me. And he said it sounded like him. It made more sense to him than the temple that he belonged to. In fact, he's a recovering alcoholic, and when he was in AA, he said to his sponsor, "I can't do the God stuff." And the sponsor said, "Just ignore that part and do the rest of it." He has been sober for many years. I asked a colleague to forward information to him about the society. Hopefully that will happen. Others at our table were also interested in our movement. I say this to illustrate that we have an audience. He didn't want to continue to become members, to continue his membership in his temple because his family only goes on Rosh Hashanah. His wife says it's community. How is it community if you don't commune? I walked into the building today and see new siding, new landscaping, bright floors. We've updated the kitchen recently, the family room, the bathrooms, and made numerous repairs. I do say roof. I see faces that I've missed because of COVID. I looked at the newsletter the other day while I was out of town and was reminded about all our great programs, the book club, mahjong, daytimers, field trips, classes, and more. And let's not forget the generosity of our temple members giving to and helping those in need and fighting for important causes. We are a community, a family, a building, a business in a way, and it all costs dollars. Our pledges cover about 60% of the expenses. We aren't a cause that reaches the general public like kids, animals, diseases. We only have ourselves. Please consider supporting our community, our family temple, our temple family, building, beautification, etc. There are so many ways. You may want to support the terrific Youth Spinoza program, sponsor one or more onegs, especially if you go to Shabbat services. Pick something that interests you, or just make a general donation. I thank you for your time, consideration of my request, and your friendship. You may make your pledge today. And guess who will be at the end of the room with envelopes to hand out? Me. Of course, you may donate later. We accept many forms of payment, but not foreign currency. Lashon Tova. See you following the service with my handout.
Once again, everybody, Shana Tova. Let me just get this fixed. You can all hear okay? Yes. All right. I want to welcome not only those of you who are present, but also those who are watching us this morning on YouTube. We had, I think, 185, 190 who joined us last night. That's probably some households as well. So while some people are ready to come back in person, clearly some people are not as ready to come back in person, especially I know when it means wearing a mask, but thanks to those of you who did show up this morning. It is our first high holidays together in 3 years, and we certainly missed being here and communing. Thank you, Elaine, for that. Our participants this morning are Dorit and Yossi Bengal, Charlie and Suzanne Paul, Harriet Meza, Lonnie Fleischer, Rabbi Miriam Cheris, and of course Elaine, who just spoke a moment ago. Welcome to our new music director, Joseph Palazzolo, and his wonderful musicians. And we will begin our service on, of course, page 1. We have come together to welcome the new year, to celebrate its promise, to ponder our responsibilities, New beginnings bring new opportunities for new and deeper relationships, for the larger vision they present. Let us preserve joyous and worthy memories, and let us carry forward our noblest hopes to enrich and uplift in the year which now begins. Let us learn from experience the lessons of the Jewish past and the lessons of the human story, remaining aware of the newer challenges before us. Let us greet the new year with renewed strength and hope, responding to the mystery and the glory of life, setting forth with confidence in our abilities to make the plans and perform the deeds to help make this truly a Shana Tova. May we bless ourselves with a sweet and good year.
We want to encourage everybody to join in the singing of today's songs. Let there be peace. Hevenu shalom alechem. Why don't we stand to start our service?
Hevenu shalom alechem. Hevenu shalom alechem. Hevenu shalom alechem. Hevenu shalom, shalom, shalom alechem. Hevenu shalom alechem. Hevenu shalom alechem. Hevenu shalom alechem. Hevenu shalom, shalom, shalom alechem.
So this was my inspiration. Today is an opportunity for hope and for reflection. Life is a complex weaving of past and future, memory and anticipation. A pause at the calendar's turning helps us reflect on where we have been in the past year and where we hope to be in the year ahead. This is the season. We gather in this season to feel our connections to each other and to Jews in every corner of the world. Our attachment transcends time and space, uniting us by emotion, memory, and community. We are part of the Jewish people, and we are a congregation of Humanistic Judaism. This is the place. In this place, we are a fellowship of ideas and of family connections. We face the new year together, knowing that we are stronger with each other than we are alone. The bond we feel with each other is profound. The bond we feel with each other is profound, for we all face this new beginning together. This is the moment. Let us use this moment to prepare ourselves with courage and conviction for the year that begins today. We are ready for the journey ahead.
Days pass and years go by, ever and ever. Days pass and years go by, ever and ever. Days pass and voices ring out with songs we sing. Life is a joyous thing, ever and ever.
Rosh Hashanah comes with a great gift. The opportunity to begin again. No one has sunk so low that change is beyond reach.
The old year is gone.
We have closed the ledger. We are free to open the book of life, and we are writing to a brand new page. Nothing blots it.
No indiscretions blemish it.
Slowly, we lift the pen to once again record our life.
And only we can direct the pen.
If we have fallen into the habit of blot and smudges, it is harder to write clear and find words and phrases. But we are invited to try, and we are challenged to succeed.
If I had my life to live over, if I had known then what I know now.
Rosh Hashanah comes with a great gift, that of beginning again.
We know now what we did not know then.
What will we do with the knowledge?
How will we use the gift? Look within yourself, you'll find it there. There's a place with wisdom that can guide us. There's a place where we know what's right or wrong. Where's the path to peace that we all long for? Yesh makom b'tochenu, yesh makom b'tochenu. Look within yourself, you'll find it there.
Unetana Tokef, the inspiration of the day. Surely our deeds do not pass away unnoticed, unrecorded. With every word and every deed, we write our book of life. Freely we choose, and what we have chosen to become stand in judgment over what we may yet hope to be. We are free, we are responsible, therefore it may be said that our lives pass under review. Who shall be shattered by quakes of social change, and who plagued by oppression?
Who shall find contentment? Who shall wander in discontent?
Who shall be poor in spirit, who rich in tranquility?
Who shall be brought low with futility? And who shall be exalted through fulfillment?
What do you hear? Sounds fill the air above us, but we do not listen to them all. We select. We decide which sound we will take to heart, which sounds will move us to respond. What do we really hear to hear? A baby crying, a sound of beauty, a warning, a word of love, a cry for help. We can shut them out of our lives if we wish, deciding they are only noise.
What will we hear? What will cause us to turn, to renew a part of life which too quickly passes by?
Have we learned to hear the voices of our elders?
Or the opinions of our youth?
Have we learned to hear the sounds that we ourselves utter?
Or do we mock our own words with gossip and vain promises?
Do we hear the sounds of chaos and creation in our own lives?
And hearing, do we love each other more?
The summons to hear these sounds is the message of the shofar. On Rosh Hashanah, we hear it anew.
Throughout the ages, the shofar sound has had many meanings. Today, it calls out to remind us that time does not stand still and that it is never too late. It calls to remind us that life must be renewed. It is an alarm to awaken us from that slumber and stupor which shut out concerns for others and ourselves. Blessed are those who hear the sound of shofar and take it to heart. The sound of the plain ram's horn is not created by mechanical means, but by the breath of life. The sound of the shofar is a wordless chant. It is a cry from each of us to each other, an act completed only when someone listens. Hearing is not difficult. True listening demands our attention and our hearts. Do we hear the shofar sound? Does it call on us to examine our lives?
They have eyes, but see not. Ears have they, but they hear not.
So write the psalmist about lifeless idols. Let us live our lives that these words could never be applied to us. The sound about us, when properly heard, taken to heart, have great power. They lead us to compassion. Let us turn to these sounds, hearing. Let us turn to each other, caring. May our lives reflect that we have heard ourselves and each other. The sounds of the shofar bind us together, uniting us wholeheartedly, if only for us would listen, if only all of us would hear.
Listen to the sounds, for not to hear is not to care.
Once again, I'd like to invite to the bima Gustav Lumelski, who will sound the shofar for us. Twice this morning we'll hear it. Tekiah. Shivarim. Teruah. Tekiah Gedolah. Tale told by Rabbi Chaim of Zedzir. A person was lost in the forest, wandering for many days and nights, unable to find a way out. Finally, another person came into view. "My friend, I am lost. I have been trying to find the way for many days and nights, but I cannot. Can you show me the way?" The newcomer replied, "I too am lost. Yet I can tell you this. Do not go the way that I have gone. That way does not lead anywhere. let us search for the way together. Since it is unlikely that we will be out of the woods this year, let this among all needs be our desire together, that in traveling the road to we know not where, we go side by side, hand in hand, heart to heart, alone yet together, and so lighten our steps and brighten our days. May we all enjoy this year's journey.
The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been written. The final verdict is not in. It is never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse, to ask and give forgiveness. It is never too late to start over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again. It is never too late to overcome despair, to turn sorrow into resolve and pain into purpose. It is never too late to alter my world, not by magic incantations or manipulations of the cards or deciphering the stars, but by opening myself to curative forces buried within, to hidden energies, the powers in my interior self. In sickness and in dying, it is never too late. Living, I teach. Dying, I teach. How I face pain and fear. Others observe me, children, adults, students of life and death. Learn from my bearing, my posture, my philosophy.
rise up each morning, and the earth rises too. World weary, we rise up, and we want something new. A world where compassion flows freely as rain. A world where all people can live without pain. Inclusive of all and rejecting of none. Where love touches all lives like the warmth of the sun. No abuse and no hatred, no prisons of fear. As the sound of the shofar celebrates the new year, if we open our hearts to the love waiting there, we can have the power to heal our despair. If we open our eyes and see all people are kin, destruction will end and a new world begin. If we open our hearts, if we open our eyes, if we open our minds, a world without sorrow, a world without pain, a world where compassion falls freely as rain. A world where all people are united as one. If we open our hearts, if we open our minds, if we open our arms.
I better put these on. We seek peace, the most precious gift we can bestow upon ourselves. May we find the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. May our country strive to be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. May we strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of humanity permeate every home and every heart. May we labor for righteousness, and in so doing, author a new book of life, blessing and peace. For we alone are the source of peace.
In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, and those who have been wronged. May all who suffer know that they are not alone, that we are there. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery, refuah shlema, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits. I invite now Gustav to join me for the second sounding of the shofar, our reading preceding it on page 16. May the sound of the shofar shatter our complacency. May the sound of the shofar remind us of our ability to change. May the sound of the shofar awaken us to our power to effect change in the world. May the sound of the shofar renew our commitment to creating peace in our homes, communities, and the world. Shivarim. Truah. Tkiya Gedolah.
תקומו בשופר, השמיעו אמת, השמיעו בינה.
Nizkor, in memoriam. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of friends can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear. But if we dwell too long on our loss, we embitter our hearts and harm ourselves and those about us. The psalmist said that in his affliction, he learned the law of life and death. And in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and care for the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silent in their presence and when a word will assure them of our love and concern. Thus, even when we are gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live as in their higher moments they themselves wish to live. We remember them now and always. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding presence.
Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us. Our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost. The martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own.
May the memory of good people bless our days. Bless our days. Bless our days.
If you can do so comfortably, I invite you to rise for our humanistic interpretation of Kaddish. We read together, Nit gadal v'nit kadash beruach ha'adam. Let us dignify and ennoble all people in the spirit of our shared humanity. Let us proclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us each, in our own way, take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May peace and justice permeate and comfort the house of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. Please be seated. Joseph has some special music for us this morning related to the theme of my talk.
So Rabbi asked me to find a song on curiosity because that's his talk today. And who better to go to about curiosity but our favorite chimpanzee, Curious George? So this is the theme song to the movie Curious George. And it's about, you got it, curiosity. To say what's impossible, but they forgot. This world keeps spinning, and with each new day, I can feel a change in everything. And as the surface breaks, reflections fade, but in some ways they remain the same. And as my mind begins to spread its wings, there's no stopping curiosity. I wanna turn the whole thing upside down. I'll find the things that say that they just can't be found. I'll share this love I find with everyone. We'll sing and dance to Mother Nature's songs. I don't want this feeling to go away. To say I can't do everything, well, I can try. And as I roll along, I begin to find things aren't always just what they seem. I wanna turn the whole thing upside down. I'll find the things they say just can't be found. I'll share this love I find with everyone. We'll sing and dance to Mother Nature's songs. I don't want this feeling to go away. This world keeps spinning and there's no time to waste. Well, it all keeps spinning, spinning round and round and upside down. Who's to say what's impossible and can't be found? I don't want this feeling to go away. Please don't go away. Is this how it's supposed to be? Is this how it's supposed to be?
Thank you so much, Joseph. Never heard that song before. I don't know how I missed it, because I certainly read enough Curious George books to my kids growing up. Perhaps one of the most famous stories in all of Jewish religious or secular literature, for that matter, is the one about Rabbi Hillel, the rabbinical sage who lived about 2,000 years ago. The story, preserved in the Talmud, relates how Rabbi Hillel reacted when approached by a potential convert to Judaism, one who challenged him to teach the entirety of the Torah while standing on only one foot. Now, Hillel was not the first rabbi approached by this potential convert. Previously, he had gone to another rabbi named Shammai, who was Hillel's rival, demanding the same thing. Shammai's response was to smack him with a ruler. This is just one reason that we hardly ever talk about Shammai. In what must have taken some measure of courage, the potential convert was undeterred, seeking out Hillel with the same challenge. He was right to trust him. Hillel did not beat him with a ruler. He took upon himself the described Judaism while standing on only one foot challenge by first and famously providing a more meaningful summation of the Torah, at least as he understood it, the famous Jewish version of the Golden Rule, what is hateful to you, do not do to someone else. But then he added this: all the rest of the Torah is but a commentary on that. Now, he said to him, Tzeh ulmad, go and learn. Tzeh ulmad, go and learn. Go find out what else there is to know, any and all of it. And for 2,000 years, our people have been doing just that. Only 2 years ago, in a wide-ranging survey of American Jews, the Pew Research Foundation asked this question: what causes and activities are essential to what being Jewish means to you? Many, of course, said carrying on family traditions. Others named specific holidays or rituals. But among the three most popular answers, coming in just behind working for justice and equality in society, came curiosity. Over 2,000 years after Rabbi Hillel told us, Tzeh ulmad, go and learn, contemporary Jews are still heeding that call. Throughout these holidays, I'm talking about our very human superpowers. Last night, we considered the emotion, the strong emotion, perhaps one of the driving emotions of all humanity, fear. Our topic today, a little bit more lighthearted, curiosity, not an emotion. It's actually difficult to define. Is curiosity a characteristic, a trait? Is it an inner drive to which we are varying degrees born? The desire to know what's going on is not unique to humans. Many animals engage in information seeking. In order to survive, animals must familiarize themselves with their environment, locate where food sources are, where dangers lie. Well, humans too began our journey with these basic elements of curiosity, but human curiosity became something else altogether. Carl Sagan put it this way: curiosity and the urge to solve problems are hallmarks of our species. It certainly does seem to be a quality with which we are born. Sagan noted its prominence in children. As a science educator, perhaps the science educator extraordinaire, he would frequently visit school children. He noticed and often pointed out that the older the children were, the more likely it was that their innate curiosity was being repressed by our memorization-based educational system. But about younger children, he noticed this. He said, go talk to kindergarten kids or first graders. There you'll find a class full of science enthusiasts. They ask deep questions. What is a dream? Why do we have toes? Why is the moon round? What is the birthday of the world? Why is grass green? These are, Sagan said, profound questions. Anyone who has ever spent some time with little children has played that game of why. The never-ending questions where every answer is greeted by why, in a gloriously frustrating search for knowledge. Even so, great questions remain about the origins of our curiosity. Perhaps curiosity about curiosity is part of the job description for astronomers and astrophysicists, because just recently, Professor Mario Livio, an Israeli-American astrophysicist, explored much of this Sagan territory in a new book called, appropriately, Why? What Makes Us Curious? It turns out that the origins of curiosity may be more complicated than the origins of the universe. As Professor Livio wrote, it's a phenomenon as diverse as the drive to conduct deep ocean exploration or the feeling that is evoked in us when we're watching Jeopardy. Dr. Livio made quite the effort to pin it down. He analyzed experiments about infants exploring their environments, experiments performed on adults in MRIs, that sort of thing. And what he discovered is not a particularly good answer. The curiosity, he found, is not generated by any single human drive, but rather by what he calls a family of intertwined states or mechanisms powered by distinct circuits in the brain, which one reviewer wryly noted is not particularly satisfying. Well, satisfying or not, if he can't figure it out, nor can Sagan, perhaps we never will know what lies at the bottom of the human drive for knowledge. But what he did remind us in his research is that while all humans have some inclination to curiosity, the intensity of our curiosity is not equally shared by everyone. People range from merely curious and only about a narrow range of things to intensively and insatiably curious with the drive for knowledge running their lives. I recently took a very informal poll in which I asked people to repeat their favorite quotable quote about curiosity. No one quoted Dorothy Parker, who famously said, "The cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity." No one repeated to me the words of Albert Einstein, who once said, "Curiosity has its own reason for existing." Every single person that I talked to cited a single famous proverb, and I already heard it from this side of the room. Curiosity killed the cat. Which, that one too, that was added many, many years later. It happens to be one of the most negative descriptions about the search for knowledge ever uttered in 5 words or less. Now, to be fair, that particular proverb is undoubtedly well known because of what it says about an admittedly negative aspect of curiosity, probably the kind that involves us sticking our noses into other people's business. But its popularity is also supported and informed by widespread doubtfulness and some justified historical caution about the consequences of newly acquired knowledge. Perhaps the most famous story about that was recorded by the ancient Greek poet Hesiod some 2,800 years ago. It is the famous myth of Pandora, whose curiosity led her to open that famous container that bears her name, launching misery and suffering and many other things upon the human race. As fast as she tried to close it, Hesiod recounted, it was too late. The kinds of positive Jewish attitudes about the quest for knowledge that we encounter in the story of Rabbi Hillel or in the responses of today's Jews who cite curiosity as an essential aspect of their Jewish identity have not always been so prominent in our tradition either. The Torah itself starts Pandora's box-like with a story of curiosity gone wrong, that of Adam and Eve. It's one of the most famous and probably the oldest critique of the search for knowledge. The tale of expulsion from the Garden of Eden was created to explain just how it was that the human race was exiled from paradise, a punishment for curiosity. It's a story that encouraged opposition to the search for knowledge in many branches of both Judaism and Christianity, and a lot of it continues to this day. The serpent that cons Eve and through her Adam into eating the forbidden fruit is an ancient symbol of duplicity and deceit. It should not escape our notice, by the way, that the forbidden fruit that they eat against God's instructions. It's not merely from the tree of knowledge, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. To that extent was curiosity discouraged. The biblical narratives that follow the story of Adam and Eve tell a multi-generational tale of the complete degradation of humanity. From the Bible's forbidden fruit to what's the next thing that happens, the fratricide, where Cain kills Abel. This continues with depictions of the spread of global mass corruption, murder, and it all, of course, culminates in a flood that destroys pretty much everyone. What a reward for our curiosity. Even after the flood, victims of over-curiosity are ample in our Bible. One such terrible tale recalls the fate of Abraham's nephew, Lot. Well, actually, Lot's wife. You may recall that Lot lived with his wife and daughters in the memorably wicked city of Sodom, a place so irredeemably awful that God announces his intention to destroy it and its neighbor Gomorrah for want of even 10 righteous people. Lot and his family, apparently the only residents worthy of salvation, are permitted to escape the impending destruction, but there's one caveat. Do not, God says, look back at the sulfurous flames engulfing your homes. Well, Lot's wife, so curious to see what's going on, cannot resist and is famously punished for it when God instantly turns her into a pillar of salt. A quick Google search of some evangelical Christian websites reminded me that those who take the Bible significantly more literally than they should carry on the tradition of fearing new knowledge. Consider this one single website on a fundamentalist site's war on knowledge, and it was echoed everywhere I looked. Curiosity, it says, can indeed lead you down a dark path. Christians must be careful to walk with the Holy Spirit. It is extremely easy to fall into sin, and Satan can entice you. All it takes is one time. Another site reverentially quoted 17th century Christian theologian Thomas Fuller, not a fan of curiosity. He wrote that curiosity is a kernel of the forbidden fruit, which still sticketh in the throat of natural man, sometimes to the danger of choking. If most contemporary Jews have learned to keep the Torah's tales of curiosity, of the curiosity averse in perspective, and to even elevate the value of the search for knowledge to one of the essentials of Jewish identity, well, there are still some amongst our people who see the quest for knowledge as a quite threatening pursuit. Sadly, this has become the hallmark of many ultra-Orthodox Jews who live in closed-off societies. The search for knowledge that is unsanctioned by religious leaders is a detestable transgression to them. You may recently have read that extensive New York Times investigative report into their resistance to even the most basic secular education, something that is harming their children, and who many who have grown up in that world are now seeking justice and restitution for what they've lost as a result. Challenging it, maintaining it in the days of the internet has made it an almost Sisyphean task. A few years ago, their efforts to stymie growing use of the internet created international headlines when over 40,000 ultra-Orthodox believers, all men of course, gathered at New York's Citi Field ballpark for a night dedicated to the condemnation of their community's growing use of the internet. Even that night, anyone could see what they were up against. With more than a touch of irony, the New York Times reported that on a number 7 train headed toward the stadium, several men wearing the clothing of ultra-Orthodoxy whipped out their smartphones as soon as the subway emerged from the East River Tunnel, poking at their email boxes, checking voicemail messages, and more. Who knows what else they were looking at. Shulam Dean, a former ultra-Orthodox Jew who several years back visited our congregation to talk about his memoir. It is called All Who Go Do Not Return, described in that book the inescapable curiosity that ultimately led him, as it has thousands of others in that community, to break from ultra-Orthodox Judaism. His drive for knowledge about the larger world was so acute that he secretly hid in corners of the local public library as he plowed through the Funkin' Wagnall's Children's Encyclopedia. Unless we saddle Orthodox religion alone with all blame for repressing the search for knowledge, we should keep in mind that it is not religion alone that concerns itself with restricting curiosity. It is every repressive group or society that chooses to quash knowledge in order to cling to power. Threatened as they are by how curiosity leads to knowledge about the wider world, knowledge that challenges their established narratives, that informs their followers of the existence of others. In authoritarian societies, it can also make people aware, curiosity can, of their own oppression. Now, to be honest, with any human quality or character trait, curiosity does have its downside. We mentioned it briefly a moment ago. The morbid curiosity of drivers straining their necks to see what's going on in an accident way on the opposite side of the road has caused more than its share of secondary damage. We saw this on our way home from Maryland recently. An accident looked like it was 200 yards away, and people were slamming on their brakes on our side of the road. And of course, we've mentioned that proverbial cat. When I chose the topic for this morning, I was aware that singing the praises of the quest for knowledge to a congregation of humanists might be just a little bit more than preaching to the choir, although as you can see, they left. But I don't think due to an aversion of interest in the pursuit of knowledge. Going a bit deeper, however, as I explored this topic, I found that there were some aspects of curiosity that really do go beyond science and beyond exploration. There is a role that curiosity plays in making us better people. In a marvelous academic paper entitled Curiosity as a Moral Virtue, written over 20 years ago for the International Journal of Applied Philosophy, Professor Elias Baumgarten from the University of Michigan at Dearborn, now emeritus, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get in touch with him. Well, he argued in this marvelous paper that our curiosity has ethical and moral dimensions, that it is in fact a moral virtue. Noting the Latin roots of our English word for curiosity, curare, he drew lines to its shared semantic origins with the words care and cure. Curiosity, he points out, helps people to acquire the kind of knowledge needed for caring about people and issues in our world. Ethically, he wrote, curiosity presents a contrast to its very opposite, indifference. Indifference to matters that should demand our attention because they concern the needs of real people. Curiosity, he writes, frees us of indifference, setting the stage for deepening one's care and concern for others, he says. Even in a close relationship, he notes much that one needs to know and understand about another person in order to care deeply is not necessarily apparent without active seeking. Dr. Baumgarten notes ways in which our curiosity facilitates us to step outside of ourselves, helping us to abandon long-held assumptions, to see the world differently, to become more open to new or different perspectives and ideas. He reminds us that the curious person who acts on a desire to know about an unfamiliar ecosystem or a different culture will come to a greater understanding of its distinctive features, its sensibilities, its sensitivities. These can help give us a better appreciation and concern for all of them. In like manner, when we answer the call of our curiosity by learning more about the situations of people with whom we are less familiar, We grow in our commitment to defend the dignity of those who have been misunderstood or mistreated. When I was preparing this talk, the original special music that I had selected was a song from The Jungle Book, the Disney movie, The Bare Necessities. No, not The Bare Necessities, sorry. The name of the song is escaping me, and I went off script. I Want to Be Like You, where one of the apes, an orangutan, sings about acquiring fire. And I'm ad-libbing here for just a moment so that you can understand what I did. I became curious about this song because I had a feeling there might be an issue with it. And so, to counter my indifference about it, I explored and found that many black Americans have very serious issues with this song. Had I not been curious enough to explore that during my search for the answers to curiosity, I perhaps would have done something very lacking in dignity, in treating the dignity of these folks. So you can see from this example, again, I'm ad-libbing and went off script, that curiosity does open us up to the sensibilities and sensitivities of others. To return to my written speech, I want to quote the marvelous Brené Brown. Empathy, she writes, is more than walking in someone else's shoes. We can't always do that. I cannot walk in the shoes of black Americans who understand that song in a very different way than I appreciated it. Brené Brown says, it's also learning how to listen to another's stories about what it is like in their shoes, even when it doesn't match our own experiences. That, she says, is what raises our levels of empathy. And it derives from curiosity. Earlier, we talked about morbid curiosity, that kind that brings our attention to car wrecks. But more frequently, we are guilty of a failure to engage our curiosity at all. And sometimes that derives from the unpleasantness of the news that we might learn. When we repress our curiosity because of the upsetting nature of what it may reveal, we are also denying ourselves opportunities to practice compassion. A few weeks ago, when I was completely overwhelmed by the news of the world, I suppressed, and now I realize it was active and conscious, the desire to discover, to read more, to understand more about the flooding that was then ravaging Pakistan. It simply felt like one thing too many. This horrific natural disaster caused, according to experts, by climate change to a nation that produces less than 0.5% of our carbon emissions. This horrific natural disaster, it just seemed too awful to look at. But in suppressing my curiosity, I also suppressed my compassion, my fellow feeling, as we might call it, for those who were suffering. And so I denied myself the opportunity of some moral benefit from curiosity. Dr. Baumgarten writes, curiosity shares with other virtues an ability to help us describe an appropriate way to be affected by a situation. And there are occasions when people have a prima facie duty to be curious, or at least to become curious. He continues, though a failure to be curious on certain occasions may not be outrageous in the way that indifference to another person's suffering can be, the failure to respond with curiosity shares this with the failure to be compassionate. It may display the lack of a human characteristic that we expect people to have if they are to be equipped to live good, ethical, and moral lives. In that story of Pandora's box, there's one small detail that most of us forget. When Pandora sees all the ills that will now plague humanity flying out of it, she does hasten to close it, and she succeeds, but only by preventing one last thing from flying out of it as she closes the box on hope. This lost detail of Pandora's story is a wonderful reminder to us that it is our job to reopen Pandora's box of curiosities, to emulate her quest for knowledge, her curiosity, to complete the job by using it to recapture this escaped element. One of Rabbi Wine's most wonderful poems is called Hope is a Choice. Honestly, I've admitted this before, I did not truly understand it until the pandemic hit. And it was now my job to offer some modicum of hope through those Zoom and YouTube experiences that we shared for over a year and a half. His poem states that hope is a choice, never found, never given, always taken. Hope, he writes, is an act of will, affirming in the presence of evil that good things will happen, preferring in the face of failure self-esteem to pity. But the key line for me was this: hope is a lifestyle. When we consider how far it's taken us, it's clear that curiosity is central to the lifestyle of hope. In pre-modern times, when infections and diseases took the lives of so many in proportions that dwarf even our own pandemic, people would express their hopes through prayers, wishful thinking, or monstrously ineffective concoctions that passed for treatments. We got a little taste of that, didn't we, during COVID? But even then, rational people did not seek hope in prayer or in superstition or in wishful thinking by drinking bleach. We knew as rational people, and we know today, that hope is made available to us by a lifestyle of curiosity when it produces, for example, medical treatments. We were not wrong to put our faith in science and rational reasoning. If hope is a choice, we made that choice by putting our faith in the quest for knowledge. It was just a few weeks into one of our lockdown, our long lockdown, when a friend of mine here in the congregation texted a group of us with news about some newish mRNA technology. I didn't really know what that meant. It was about companies I never heard of, something called BioNTech. I'm still not certain I pronounced that correctly, or Moderna. But as the announcement said, they were preparing to use this to create a vaccine. And while it seemed a very long time, it was just 1 year from the moment I received that text that with a second dose of vaccine in our arms, Arthur's and my hopes were fulfilled. When at last, it's hard for me to even talk about it, after a painfully long separation, we were finally reunited with our children, privileged to be with our grandson once again and to meet our new granddaughter for the very first time. Through a sheer act of will that offered hope and a real solution to the pandemic raging across our globe, curiosity once again proved its worth to humanity. It was nothing less than a miracle, but it was not a supernatural miracle. It was a miracle of reason, a miracle of curiosity. Not all of our curiosity, of course, is about attaining a utilitarian response. Often we seek knowledge for knowledge's sake. On Yom Kippur, I'm going to discuss how our curiosity-driven exploration of space, for example, has led to new discoveries that serve our feelings of awe, speaking to human needs to reach out beyond ourselves, and particularly helping humanists to do this through the mind-boggling grandeur of the universe. It's also well known, that curiosity is just good for our brains, even and perhaps especially as we grow older. Experts on aging have long noted that those who push themselves to move beyond their comfort zones, past their long-held interests, assumptions, or even their hard-earned areas of expertise, to explore unfamiliar topics or new ways of thinking about familiar subject matter, really do live richer and happier lives. While curiosity cannot be considered, as I said originally, the exclusive domain of humanity, ours is, as Sagan reminds us, a hallmark of what it means to be a human being. The products of our search for knowledge have led to longer and healthier lives. Today, we both rejoice in and worry rightly, too, about some of the products, dangerous products, of our knowledge. Even as we celebrate our curiosity, we must ask ourselves, have our inventions and our exploitations of natural resources spun so far out of control that we are soon going to pay the price for them? Yes, I think it's obvious. But there may be one last element, something that humanists in particular can contribute to helping us to recover from and face the consequences of some of the negative aspects of curiosity. And that humanistic quality is humility, a commitment to remaining aware of our strengths and weaknesses and appreciating those of others. Humility, I think, is the secret ingredient to the responsible application of the fruits of our curiosity. As the uncle of one web-slinging superhero reminded him, with great power comes great responsibility. Curiosity is a great power, perhaps one of the greatest of our very real human superpowers. Thank you very much. So as our musicians return, I do want to make a special announcement. Some of you noticed and asked me about that giant poster that's standing now out in the lobby. It's still there, right, Melanie? A giant poster with the word Israel on it. Well, I am very happy to announce that we are going to be participating as a congregation together with the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism, which is planning and organizing a trip next December, 2023, to Israel. It'll be co-led by Rabbi Adam Shalom and myself. And it will be a combination of a tour and an adult study. You might call it, college on the road. I know there's all kinds of programs like that, but we will be Israeli or Israel Roads scholars. And I hope that you'll give some thought to joining us. We're very, very excited about this. Very excited. We don't usually sing that here, though. But thank you for the accompanying music. We saved that for Israel Independence Day. At any rate, I hope you'll consider coming and meeting secular Israel and ancient Israel with Adam and I. And I think it's going to be a terrific trip. Anything that Adam Shalom produces from the Institute is always terrific. And as you may know, Arthur and I have been to Israel many times. I maybe 3 or 4 times more than you. But we certainly know the nation very well. Anyway, that's the end of my advertising. And we'll conclude now on page 20. At the close, no, we got one more reading.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's
Sorry.
all right. It's just telling us what song we'll be concluding with. That'll be on page 22. But we're on page 20. And we're going to read this together. At the close of this day's contemplation, let us declare, let the year upon which we entered be for us, our family, our community, and for all the world, a year of blessing and prosperity, a year of security and comfort, a year of health and contentment, a year of joy and celebration, a year of virtue and justice, A year that finds the hearts of parents united with the hearts of their children. A year of pardon and forgiveness. A year of peace. A year of life. And before we conclude, I should mention that apropos the anthem, we will also be spending time with Palestinians on the West Bank. We want to make this a good visit, and I think that will also broaden it. All right, now, let's talk about peace as we go on our way, or sing about it, page 22. Sounds of the shofar, to Joseph and the musicians, to everyone who helped put together our experience this morning, to all of you, Shana Tova U'Mituka, sweet and happy year.
Do you have the program so we have the tour? Okay, great. You got all that stuff?
Yeah.
All right.
What is it?
We had the program.
Oh, yeah. Baby, can I do him in my verse again? Yeah. It keeps falling behind. And then... Thank you. You're a peach.
I got you.
Do you want to look at our calendars now? Yeah, we want to look at it later.
I don't have I have a physical one at home. I can't use my phone one. It doesn't do